Sony A7 cameras, you can pretty much put any native lens onto these cameras and the autofocus will just work great. Which is when I got my Sony FS5, which is like their cinema camera line. I thought it would do the same thing because, you know, why would they change up the focusing system for their cinema line? But the thing is that even though this is an older camera, even with the new Sony FS9, apparently they're having problems with using different brands of lenses on them. Where if you use the native Sony lenses, they work great, but when you start adding other lens companies onto them, then the autofocus starts having problems. Which is what happened when I used the Sony FS5, where I used the Sigma 35mm f1.4, and the autofocus on that was pretty much unusable, so I assumed that just the autofocus didn't work on this camera. But then I put the Tamron 28-75mm and that one worked great. So in this video we're going to be doing tests with autofocus with different lens brands and see which one works the best. So let's get right into that. At first we're going to start with the Tamron 28-75 2.8. Alright, Tamron 28-75. Okay, it's doing a pretty good job of following my face. Oh, if I go like lower, it still keeps the track but the box goes away. It's doing a decent job. It's actually doing a pretty good job. But the only problem, it's like it has it on my face, but it's like it kind of works well as long as it doesn't do with the wobbling shit where it just, you know, focuses back and forth, which usually happens with contrast-based autofocus, which I think this camera does have. It's doing a pretty good job. But the thing that sucks about the Sony FS5's autofocus is that there's like no settings for it. Like on the A7 cameras you can like adjust like how fast you want it to focus and everything, but this one there's no settings for it. There's only the setting to turn the face detect on and off. That's the only setting. And then I'm gonna get comments people being like, oh, this is a cinema camera, you're supposed to manual focus it. But autofocus is a tool, you know, you need it sometimes, you know, like especially if I'm doing like an interview or if I'm doing corporate videos, which is what I mainly do. In those scenarios, I usually always have at least 2 cameras shooting at the same time. So in those scenarios, if I'm by myself, if I don't have an assistant or an AC, then, you know, I'm managing 2 cameras. So autofocus, you know, comes in handy. And with the Sony cameras, you can turn on the face detect on them and it'll 99% of the time keep you in focus. So it's like I'm gonna use it, you know, because I actually had shoots where like I thought I had it in focus, then I go home and I look at the screen and I'm like, oh, the guy's out of focus. You know, it's like I got paid $1,000 and the guy's out of focus. Like, you know, it's good to have autofocus. I think it's important. Of course, if you're shooting a movie, you're gonna be using a manual focus. You're gonna have a dedicated focus puller for that, but it's doing a pretty good job for Tamron 28-75 as far as I can tell. There isn't that many wobbly shit going. So next go to the next lens, which is going to be the Sigma 35mm 1.4, which I love this lens and the autofocus works great on the Sony A7 cameras. But last time I tried, the autofocus was terrible with this camera on the FS5, so let's try that right now. Alright, so we got f1.4 now. Oh, it sees my face. Oh. Yeah, I can see it just from the monitor, it just does that wobbly stuff. Wow, the autofocus is completely unusable. Wow, that's really bad. And of course, this is a 1.4 lens compared to the Tamron, which is a 2.8 lens, but like, yeah, if you're gonna use this lens, then you need to use manual focus if you're gonna use it on the FS5 cameras. But the thing is that if you use it on the A7R cameras, it works perfectly fine. There's no problem with it. But the FS5, it's completely unusable. Can I Tony North up this? That actually doesn't look too bad, but yeah, that is not good at all. Wow. Yeah. And one cool thing about this lens is that the minimum focusing distance is like insanely close. Like, oh my god. Like I can get super close. I can pretty much like touch it with my nose. It's gonna focus. can do something like this. It's just insane. Is he gonna get me when I come back? Oh, it's so slow. Which is fine, slow is fine, but yeah, it just sucks that like it like gets your face. Like you get the square box, but like it just does that wobbling back and forth, so it's completely unusable. Which sucks because like it's a 1.4 lens, and if you ever use the 1.4 lens, it's like they're like insanely hard to like manual focus with. So you know you can't rely on the autofocus with this lens at all. So you just gotta be good at manual focusing. But okay, so let's go to the next lens, which is gonna be a Sony native lens, which is gonna be the Sony 85mm 1.8. See if we can Tony North up this. Come on. There we go. Which is my favorite portrait lens for doing photography. And I still love shooting video with this also, because it's just a very good focal length to make people look good. Oh, we're gonna focus on my face. There we go. Okay, so let's switch over now to the 85 1.8. Okay, now we got the Sony 85mm 1.8, and seems to keep my face in focus. Let's see. Honestly, I might use this lens if this lens works well, but oh, it's doing some wobblies. Now this is a fast lens, but apparently the Sony lenses work best. I know that one of my viewers said that the Sony 18-105 works great, so that worked. So if you want to get that lens for autofocus and also has image stabilization, that might be a good lens for you. I personally don't like shooting f4 lenses, but I think it's doing the wobblies. If I like get too high off the screen, it like loses my face. But if I'm like in the middle, if I scrunch a little bit, it works. I mean, it seems to be keeping my face in focus. I mean, I would just probably have to use manual focus for just the studio, but I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to go to back to. I think when I go back on my computer, then I can tell if this is working or not. Huh. Oh man. Apparently I have the wrong shutter. Also, I'm at 72%, it says 180, so that's nice. Man. I don't know, it seems to be like working fine. There's some wobblies though. Are you doing the wobblies? I don't know. You guys tell me if this works fine. Is that getting my face pretty fast? Okay, now let's switch to a Canon lens and see how that works. And this one's gonna be like a little crazy because we're gonna be using the 150 to 600mm lens. But I just want to see how autofocus works with the Sigma, I think it's called EMC 11 adapter or whatever it's called. But it's the adapter to use, you know, Canon lenses like this on the Sony body. So let's put the adapter on now and see how that works. Oh my god, this is really stupid. Oh my god, I literally had to put the camera on the other side of the room to be able to use this lens. And now the microphone's like just like getting swayed away. Oh no. Oh no. Alright, we gotta move the camera right there. I don't know how the audio quality is gonna be, but oh my god. I'm still getting the box on my face, so that's good. The lens is very loud though. I'll bring the microphone over later, but it's extremely loud. I can even hear it from here, but that's like got my face, you know. So loud. Oh my god. Oh, is it focusing? It's trying really hard to focus. Oh, I just gave up. This is really dumb. I think it's working, kinda. I'm not sure, but I don't think it's gonna be reliable enough to like use some wildlife videos with this camera. Especially since if you use autofocus, if you use slow motion with this camera, which is what you're going to be using it if you're doing wildlife or whatever, you're not going to be using autofocus because it doesn't work on slow motion modes. But I am actually going to make a video with this lens soon just to shoot some wildlife with it, because this FS5 is actually amazing for shooting wildlife. I honestly love shooting videos with this camera for wildlife. But oh my god, it's so loud. Jesus. Alright, you know what? I'm gonna bring the microphone just so you guys can hear how loud it is. Oh my god, listen to this. Oh, stopped. It's back. Alright, so the conclusion is going to be that none of the lenses were, in my opinion, reliable enough for you to be able to use autofocus comfortably. Unlike with the Sony A7 cameras, where you get that amazing face detect autofocus that can just stay on the face. But this camera uses the contrast-based autofocus, which just, constantly just wobbles back and forth, and that works fine for a photography camera where you're just taking stills. But I don't really understand why they put on a video camera. I'm guessing this just because this camera came out before they really developed that technology. But honestly, I wouldn't use it. You kind of have to use manual focus with this camera. I think from what we've seen on the test though, pretty much most of the lenses were unusable except for the Sigma 28-75. And surprisingly enough, the Sigma 150-600 also did well. So I think it has more to do with the amount of depth of field you have. So with the 1.4, since the depth of field is so thin, when it goes back and forth, you can see that clearly. But while with the Sigma 150-600, even though that's an adapted, large lens, it still did fine because the depth of field was so big. And with the Tamron, since it's a 2.8 compared to the other lenses which were 1.4 and 1.8, you also didn't notice it that much. So we're actually gonna do one final test where we're gonna use the Sigma 28-75, which did the best autofocusing, but we're gonna go from f2.8 to f4 to see if you can even tell it. So that's gonna be the end of this video. So now we're at f4 in autofocus, and let's see if you still notice the wobblies. But it's not even focusing on my face right now, honestly. Okay, it's focused on my face. So let's see if you can even tell the wobblies in f4 right now. But anyways, guys, that's gonna be it for this video. Let me know what you guys think, if you would use the autofocus or not on this camera. And I think when they eventually come up with Sony FS5 Mark III, hopefully they'll put the phase detect autofocus on this camera, because the autofocus is a good tool to have on your belt when you're out there shooting. It's not going to be best for every scenario. For most scenarios, you're probably going to be manual focusing if you're behind the camera, but there's always some occasion happens where you need to have two cameras or something where you can't man the camera yourself. So having a good reliable autofocus is very important. And most of Canon, cinema cameras, the C200 I know has it. And I think the new C500 Mark III also has their amazing dual pixel autofocus. So I hopefully Sony will eventually update these cameras to have good reliable autofocus, like how they do on their A7 cameras. But anyways, guys, that's gonna be it for this video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe. I make videos pretty much every single week. Maybe sometimes I do multiple videos a week, but it's kind of crazy out there right now with the virus going on, so I'm trying to do what I can. But hopefully you enjoyed this video, and make sure to follow me on Instagram at YakAlmighty, and I'll see you guys on the next video. So goodbye.